And we are at that point. We call it the big story. And today, we can tell you that U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened to substantially raise tariffs on India due to its purchase of Russian oil, calling it unjustified that India buys massive amounts of Russian oil and sells it on the open market for big profits while ignoring the Ukraine war. Trump announced a 25% tariff on Indian goods last week and is now considering further increases in tariffs. India has rejected Trump's criticism, stating that its oil imports are driven by market needs and national interests, and that the U.S. and EU's own trade with Russia is hypocritical. We want to get a little deeper discussion on this, and so we're joined at this time by Professor Basil Wilson, retired provost of the John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York City, who is our guest in the Big Story segment right now. Good morning, Prof. How are you today?
Good morning, Richard B., and good morning to your transnational audience.
Yes, thank you very much. Prof, this could have a major impact on the economy of India should President Trump proceed with the announced plans to increase tariffs on them. It could be a major negative for India's economy now, wouldn't it?
Well, it can be, and let's put this in context. I mean, last year, before we had these tariff hikes, the average tariff that the consumer in the United States faced was 2.5%. The average tariff at present is over 20%. And as you mentioned, that they've imposed tariffs coming from India of over 25%. And the new threat is that they would increase those tariffs based upon the fact that India is in fact importing oil from Russia. But one of the things that the Indian government has pointed out, that the United States is still trading with Russia. It is importing uranium and it is importing fertilizers from Russia. And in fact, what is paradoxical is that both the Biden administration and the Trump administration, because of geopolitics, have been courting India in order to contain China. And obviously, if they alienate India, it could in fact push India and China in a much better relationship and change that dynamic completely.
So you believe that India could in fact take that approach in relation to this threat as one of the options? Would you say that there are also other options that they have that they might want to consider?
Yes, I mean, one of the things that the Indian government is talking about is maybe expanding trade with the European Union, expanding trade with the United Kingdom, and diversifying markets. I mean, they only have, I think, as I understand it, about 18% of their exports to the United States. Of course, one of the strengths of the United States economy is that it is a consumer economy. Over 70% of the American economy is based upon consumption, which is more so than any other country, even China, which is more an export-oriented economy. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the things that the Indians are holding out for is that the Indians have not been able to modernize the agricultural sector. So they can't throw open the agricultural sector to American goods. It would have a devastating impact on agriculture in India. So even though India has in fact modernized in terms of computers, in terms of AI, in terms of modern production, they have to make certain that the agricultural sector is protected in order not to bring about destabilization within the social order within India.
Mm-hmm. What do you see as some of the potential consequences of this tariff increase on India that this could possibly have on the global economy, particularly in terms of trade and investment?
Well, one of the things that we are fearful of is that it could plunge the world economy into a recession. I mean, one of the things that we have observed in the United States in the last couple of months is that hiring, if you look at the job market, both May, June, and July, there's a tremendous reduction in the hiring process in the job market, and there are serious inflationary trends. One of the things that we're about to see as people opt now to back to school purchasing and preparing for Christmas purchases is that a lot of the goods that are going to be imported are going to be inflationary, and that could in fact halt and reduce consumer spending and in fact plunge the United States into some kind of stagflation, which is quite frightening because the Federal Reserve has a commitment and that it wants to maintain inflation at a 2% annual rate and in fact maximum employment. But if you have a recession and you have high unemployment and you have inflation, then even if it reduces its credit ratings, its credit rates, it is going to have a very difficult time really stimulating the American economy, and especially where the Trump administration has been reducing spending in the state sector. It's going to be very difficult if we plunge into a recession to extricate ourselves from that recession.
Mm-hmm. There's obviously a lot of unpredictability, Professor Wilson, in terms of how the Trump administration conducts business, trade policies, and so on. Even with India, as we're seeing the threat being made against them, do you think that it will be sort of difficult for India to navigate its relationship going forward with the U.S. and even other countries in the region?
Well, I mean, there's no question that India wants to have a productive relationship with the United States, just as Canada wants to. In fact, negotiations with China are ongoing. But one of the problems that we have is that when the Trump administration negotiates, they issue ultimatums. They don't really negotiate. They just impose tariffs. And so it's not really a symmetrical relationship. It is, in fact, it becomes an exploitative relationship where the country is under siege because the tariffs are actually imposed rather than negotiated and established some kind of symmetrical rapprochement.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that must make it quite difficult, really, for countries to navigate. So, as it is now, based on the stance of the Trump administration and the stance of India, what do you see as the potential, dealings between both countries going forward from here on?
Well, there is a saying that they've always accused Trump of being taco, right? Trump always, what is it? Trump always gives in, and that sometimes when he issues these threats, he does not adhere to them. He has had a very good relationship with Modi, and they have, exchanged. He has visited India, and they've been very supportive of him. Modi has visited the White House, and they've been very supportive. So we're hoping that there can be some kind of rapprochement, and that he will not impose further tariffs, and they can really work out their differences. So, I mean, one of the things that we have to realize is the important role that India plays in human resources in the United States. Mm-hmm. India plays an important, India export of professional people who have expertise in AI, in computers, in healthcare. They play an important role in the Silicon Valley, in American healthcare, in American research institutions. Mm-hmm. And that has a lot to do with how much India has developed its human resources in recent years.
Some would say, and in my closing point, some would say that the Trump administration is using tariffs as a political weapon, even in this instance. Do you see it that way, Prof?
Definitely. I mean, even take, for example, what they're doing with Brazil. Brazil has a situation where the former president of Brazil is being tried a coup after he was defeated. And they've now imposed a 50% tariff on Brazil because Brazil is in fact trying Bolsonaro, which to me is absurd. And one of the things that we have to mention is that the courts initially have indicated that Trump does not have the constitutional rights to impose tariffs. That tariffs is the responsibility of the United States Congress because tariffs is a tax. And Congress has a monopoly on determining the rate of taxation in the United States. No, that has not eventually to the Supreme Court. It has just got to the appeals court, and more than likely, that determination will be made. Once it is made, and in fact, the imposition of these tariffs, which came from the Trump administration, may be thrown out the window.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Professor Wilson, you have given us a lot of insight, a lot to think about, and we appreciate your thoughts every time. Have a great day today. Look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you, Richard B.
All the best,